Hey, welcome back everyone. It is now October 8th of 2022. We've got Andor episode 6 coming up in just a couple of days from now, and a lot of fans are really looking forward to one of the most recent shows that's actually all sitting ready to come out for this month on October 26th, and that is of course no other than Tales of the Jedi. That's going to conclude the 2022 year of Star Wars shows. This is Mike Zero. Make sure to subscribe if you are new to the channel for future Star Wars updates. Also, by the way guys, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support. It is greatly appreciated. Now, one thing about the new universe is that, yes, we do have Favreau, Filoni, and Lucas all working together as a team, and how they are dragging in Star Wars Legends into the mix. So basically, what they're doing with Legends is that they are finding avenues, they're finding pathways on how to use them properly in many of the upcoming Star Wars projects. You know, give it, of course, the Ahsoka series, Mando 3 and 4, and a whole lot of other projects out there as well. Now that brings us to the newest subject for today that involves, of course, Lucasfilm's Kathleen Kennedy and Jon Favreau, and exactly what's been happening behind the scenes between the two and why drama is actually stirring up between these two very powerful people in the Star Wars realm, if you want to say that, right? So when we look at everything related to all of this, given that Favreau got that promotion a couple of months ago, we talked about this already, it allowed him to really take control over 65% of the shows to be marketed the way that he wants to, and everything else except for Skeleton Crew and the Acolyte he has creative power over, story-wise. Even, of course, having some control over the budgeting of some of the upcoming shows, and even replacing Kathleen Kennedy as a producer on some. So there's a lot of things happening. Now, besides all of that, completely separate from that, with many new Star Wars projects in the works by Disney and Lucasfilm, creators Jon and Dave Filoni are beginning to work on The Mandalorian Season 4 that will borrow many stories from Legends. Now, it's noted, however, that behind the scenes, Jon Favreau has been making some core changes to the Star Wars brand ever since Kennedy lost her creative power, for the most part in early 2020. However, many, of course, of the changes that Favreau inserted are now being finalized, one of which is creating a stir between Kennedy and Favreau. Now, it's noted that just recently Favreau canceled a major Star Wars project that Kathleen Kennedy greenlit about 2 years ago that was set to focus on the first Jedi Temple, and of course, serving as a prequel to The Last Jedi. This series was set to focus on the origin of the tree library seen on the world of Ahsoka, and was going to be considered an ancient storytelling piece that connects to The Last Jedi. Kathleen Kennedy is the one who had planned all of this out with Rian Johnson at the time. However, Johnson was unavailable to take part in the series. The code name of the show was simply titled Project Journal. The new series was going to focus on ancient Jedi and how they created the ancient Jedi Temple that is still considered to be the first one in canon. Now, I want to pause here quickly for a second before we get to the more involved stuff, so to speak. Now, obviously, a lot of fans had issues with The Last Jedi. There's no question about that. Now, do I think that this on paper could have worked or sounds interesting to a degree? I will admit, and I'm not gonna lie, it had potential. You know, this story, it does have potential of exploring the ancient Jedi and the tree library, but you know what? I think that at the end of the day, we don't really want anything associated with The Last Jedi and anything familiar with The Last Jedi to be seen again. And that's going to lead me to my next point of what Favreau is doing and why he's actually getting rid of the show, and why Kathleen Kennedy is so frustrated about this over Favreau. Now, Favreau is actually in the process of retconning and completely erasing the fact in canon that in the Last Jedi, that was actually not the first Jedi Temple. That's what Jon Favreau is going to do. In fact, Favreau is making it canon that there are multiple temples just like that scattered across the galaxy. And the one that we saw in The Last Jedi was not the first Jedi Temple per se, and that there is another one. So that's what Favreau is working on right now, and why it didn't make much sense for him to actually follow up with that series that Kathleen Kennedy had greenlit. Now, I digress, because this is where things really begin to get all the more interesting and more involved with the whole situation. So, of course, however, as of late, Favreau did not like this story idea, since Kennedy was going to make it very much driven by her own agenda again, and shifting away from the vision of George Lucas. So, once again, this series was going to shift away from George's vision and his philosophy, and what Star Wars stands for, and what it means, and how it impacts people across the globe. You can't really just shy away from that, and I've said this many times over the years. You have to stay in tune. You just have to. Stay in tune with George's vision. It's just what Star Wars is. Now, that's not to say that everything has to be lightsabers or space battles. I get that. But there has to be that core element to Star Wars that has and gives you that feeling. Dave Filoni even pointed it out. It gives you that good feeling. It's the best way to describe it. Now, Kennedy is said to be furious at Favreau for canceling the series, as it was one of the last projects that was going to extend the story of The Last Jedi and the First Jedi Temple. Favreau is described to be in the process of retconning the First Jedi Temple and making a new one, which could be the main reason of cancellation, and how Favreau is going to introduce this in a new Star Wars TV series that's going to focus on the First Jedi and the First Jedi Temple as well. So, this is very interesting stuff, because I gotta stop here quick for a second. The thing about this is that Favreau knows what the fans want, and he knows what might not sell. Alright, now, like I said before, does this sound cool on paper? Does it sound very interesting? Does it suck you into the story? Maybe it does, maybe the idea or thought of that is an eyebrow lifter in a good way, where you're like, oh, alright, that's interesting. But on the other end of the spectrum, you have a handful of fans that are not going to like this idea, because they're going to be familiar with the setting of The Last Jedi. Let's not forget that this show was planned to all take place on Ahch-To strictly. A strict, small-scale show, low budget, sticking in one location. And I can see why Favreau canceled that, because I don't think it would have worked in the Star Wars world to have one whole series taking place on an island. I just don't think it would have worked. I mean, maybe it could have. I mean, if you look at Lost, I guess that works. But that's Lost, right? I mean, that's a very expansive storytelling that just evolves over time, and they could have maybe done that. But given that this island is really not all that big, if you guys go ahead and really check it out, it's really not all that large. I don't really know how you can make a whole series based on one location. Just my 2 cents. So overall, I'm kind of glad that Favreau canned this idea, and how he's moving forward with other projects and really kind of just embracing, this new setting of Star Wars, and how it's going to be all done properly, it's going to be done the right way, and it's going to make things up for the fans. So, anyways, guys, drop a comment below. Let me know what you guys have to say about all this below in the comments, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.
Gun in hand, we are alone again. From night to moon, we hear them moans again.